outside our Golf.com studio here in New York City. I'm Jessica Marksbury, and joining me today for a discussion of his new book, The Forbidden Game, Golf and the Chinese Dream, is author Dan Washburn. And Dan, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's start with a line from the book's prologue, which basically says, golf is both banned and booming in China. So what exactly does that mean?
So it's not illegal to play golf in China, but it's technically illegal to build new golf courses in China. And we're on the 10-year anniversary of that moratorium on golf course construction. And I think if you just look at the numbers, you'll see that it hasn't been that successful. In 2004, when the moratorium first came out, there were 176 courses in China, according to state media. And now, today, there's anywhere between 600 to 1,000, depending on who you ask. It's hard to get a handle on the real number because it is so unregulated. It's officially illegal, and yet it seems like every local government is doing it.
How does that work exactly? Because obviously this is a tourist boon for China on one hand, but it's also seen as politically taboo to be playing golf.
Right.
So how does that contradiction work itself out?
So golf has a very tricky history in China. It was in effect banned in 1949 when Mao came to power. He called it the sport for millionaires. And a lot of the existing courses were dug up and turned into other things. For example, what was once Hongqiao Golf Club in Shanghai is now the site of the Shanghai Zoo. It wasn't until 1984, 30 years ago, that modern China opened up its first course. So it's so young there. I mean, the game of golf in China is younger than Adam Scott. So we're still in the very early stages of its trajectory. So you do have this kind of internal struggle in China. It is this elitist game. It's still prohibitively expensive to play, and it is a communist country, and it's kind of like a political hot potato because the government doesn't officially want to be seen embracing the game. I mean, there's 700 million peasant farmers in China who could never be able to afford a round of golf. So it's that kind of balance, that kind of tightrope that they're walking. But the way that the development happens, there's a saying called the mountain is high and the emperor is far away. And that really speaks to, okay, Beijing can say one thing, they can have their rules, but the way they're interpreted or sometimes just completely ignored by the political officials out in the provinces, they interpret things their own way. So a lot of the local government officials view golf development as a positive, to bring in kind of a well-heeled clientele, to attract business and other development. And it's a big tax revenue earner. But perhaps most importantly, the reason why the local government officials are anxious to have some of these land-hungry developments is because they're the ones that own the land. So the local governments are making a lot of money off of these developments. And then that's where some of the conflict arises, because the villagers who may live on the land or may work on the land don't feel that they're getting a fair share of the money that goes to the government from the developers.
Let's take a look at the big picture. Golf industry in America struggling a little bit. Is China the new land of plenty? If you're into course design, would you design your next course in China?
Well, I think thankfully for the golf world, I am not designing courses, but it seems like everybody in the industry is knocking on China's door in one way or another. Now, I don't know if it's because it's so wonderful to work in China. Honestly, a lot of the people in the construction side that I've talked to, it's not the easiest place to work because of the things that we've talked about. But the fact of the matter is, it's one of the few places in the world building golf courses at any regular rate right now. So if you are in the industry, you kind of need to adapt to China's ways. You know, when businesses go into China, they know that they're to some extent going to have to play by China's rules. The hard part about the golf industry is that nobody really knows what the rules are.
Greg Norman was recently named advisory coach to China's national team. How has golf's return to the Olympics coming up in 2016 really impacted the youth golf culture and the golf culture in general in China?
It's had a huge impact. And this is one area where the government has embraced golf, but maybe a little bit under the radar. They're putting an unprecedented amount of money into their Olympic program. So you have their Olympic teams, which are professional golfers. They are 100% funded by the government. That's equipment, travel, coaching, tournament entries, and that's huge. There's not many other countries, if any, that do this.
We know they're serious about the Olympics in
They
China.
are serious. They're a little bit medal crazy, and so they are really serious about this development. But it's not like a grassroots development. They're really picking from the top. So the people who do advance to this national team level are already kids who have performed well at the junior level, which means they're probably kids that come from wealthy families whose parents have paid for some top level coaching, and then that got the attention of the national team.
I know you did extensive reporting for this book, but a lot of it had to be off the record, done in
Right.
secret a little bit. Was that the greatest challenge for you in writing this book?
I mean, that was a challenge. I mean, I think that's a challenge with a lot of reporters covering a lot of things in China. But given kind of the legally nebulous atmosphere surrounding parts of the golf industry in China, I mean, it is very hard to get people to talk to you on the record, understandably so. So there are some unnamed sources in the book, probably more than I would like, but that's the nature of the beast there. But even given that, I had a wealth of information to work with, and maybe that was one of the biggest challenges, trying to whittle it all down, into 300 pages.
Well, certainly a fascinating topic. The Forbidden Game, Golf and the Chinese Dream is available now. For more information, you can visit Dan's website, danwashburn.com. Dan, thank you so much for being here and sharing all of these interesting insights with us. And thank you all for joining us here on Golf.com.